Is that not the coolest thing ever? Right, hey guys, how's it going, and welcome to Island of Vape. Now today we're going to be checking out the Vaporshark DNA200. I know the video's been a little while in the making. It's taken a while to get used to this thing, to find out about all the features on it, to use them. But also it's I've had a few issues with it, with uploading. Obviously, you guys are probably aware I've got my new PC set up, all the new editing software. There's been a few issues, but we're here finally. We've sorted it out. So yeah, without further ado, let's crack on. So first things first, for you guys that may be new to the channel, check out the old video of the Vaporshark DNA200, which I'm going to leave a link to here, right about here. That's the kind of unboxing side of things. The I don't know why I'm looking at it. That's the kind of unboxing. It's a first look, the kind of preview sort of stuff. We vaped on it a little bit in Canthol mode. But check that out if you want the sort of up close and personal, in-depth kind of looking at the actual unit itself. This video is basically about the features, how it vapes in Canthol, temp mode, and also the software, the Escribe software that comes with it. We'll get to that in a bit. But for now, let's take a look at the basics of the unit. So no doubt most of you guys are probably vaping on Canthol coils, or Canthol coils in a tank. Either you're building them themselves, they're replaceable, whatever. You've probably got a tank or an RDA with Canthol coils in it. That's going to be the staple for a lot of vapors. I know a lot of the guys building are into the nickel stuff, but a lot of the regular sort of like, oh, I'm just going to fill up a tank and vape on it. You guys, you're probably using Canthol coils. So how does it vape in Canthol mode? Well, I mean, this thing, it goes from anywhere from 1 to like 200 watts. It's absolutely ridiculous, the range of settings on this thing. Right now I've got it in just regular mode. It's 5 clicks to unlock, as always. It's 43 watts. The coil I got in there at the moment, you can see if I zoom it in, is a 0.4 ohm coil. Its reading is 0.42. It's actually got a decimal place more than my usual Sigelli mod. Yeah, 43 watts. Just a regular old Aspire Atlantis 2. So let's give it a go and see what we get out of it in Canthol mode. It's a nice sunny day outside, as you can see. This is one of the hardest hitting regulated mods that I've ever used. It is of course powered by LiPo batteries. It's not your average 18650s. If you take the back panel off, I did show you guys in the other video, but there it is, a big bulky LiPo battery. It's not bulky at all, it's actually really small. But yeah, it is LiPo powered. Obviously magnetic back panel is awesome, really nice and clicky, fits in really well. There is no gaps. Well, there are no gaps. Well, okay, there's maybe a tiny gap you can just see there, but it fits really flush. I mean, you're never going to notice that gap, really. It's not like some mods where you get really big gaps in between the actual back panel and stuff. This thing fits flush. It fits really nice in your hand as well. It's a perfect size for me anyway. But yeah, the LiPo battery, it delivers really fast. The ramp up on this thing is instant. It hits pretty much straight away, straight up to the wattage you want. And we'll see that later on when we look at the Escribe software. You can actually live stream the data from the device. I mean, how nerdy is that? But yeah, I like it. I dig it. It's kind of cool. But yeah, it hits really hard, really fast. There's no cool spot at the start, which is awesome. One thing I have noticed is with Canthol coils, you do sometimes get a cold spot on the inhale. Because I don't know whether it's a feature of the unit or what, but it does seem to cut out. If you're holding the battery down for too long, it's almost like it's like a coil saving mode. I'll try and let you guys hear it in a second. When you hold the fire button down at a high wattage and the coil's getting really hot, it will just sort of cut out a little, just for a half second, something like that. Which is great because it saves the coil. I've never really been vaping on it enough to be like, well, okay, hold on, it's completely cut my vape out. But it does. Sometimes you notice just a slight kind of cold spot in the middle of your inhale. You can kind of hear it cutting out there. That's a really cool feature. It's certainly, it preserves coil life, which is fantastic. I know a lot of the guys that don't build their own coils, that buy packs of coils, and it's sort of 12 quid for a pack of 5 coils. Not that it's expensive, but hey, if you can make your coil last longer, that's a good thing. So let's talk about modes for a minute. A lot of you guys are probably thinking to yourself, oh, okay, it's a temperature sensing mod. It's designed for nickel coils predominantly. A lot of the modes are going to be for that. But there's also a few things you can use out of all of those settings if you're in Canthon mode. First off, you can lock your ohms, which is really handy. If you've got a coil that seems to be, I don't know, you've maybe built a coil, or perhaps one of your coils is getting a little older, it's reaching the end of its life cycle, but you haven't got any more yet, you're waiting for it to come in the post, whatever. You can lock your ohms. If the ohms reading is jumping up and down, lock it. Basically, you put the unit into lock mode, where it will show you this. Click 5 times, whatever. And then you want to hit these buttons on the side. You want to hit the fire button, and you want to hit the wattage up button. And then that will take you to this. Hold to lock ohms. And there you go, it's locked. You see the little lock symbols come up next to my 0.43. That will lock it at 0.43. Simple. It's that easy. To unlock it, obviously you do the same thing and it'll unlock it. Hold to unlock ohms. Fantastic, done. If you want to change the mode from, I think there's normal and then there's stealth mode and obviously temperature sensing mode. We'll get into that in a sec. Stealth mode basically cuts the screen out. The only time that screen will show anything is basically when you're holding the button and it's saying click to unlock, just to let you know that it's locked. And also if you're going to put it back into normal mode, it'll show the screen then. But when you're vaping on it, it won't glow from the bottom. Obviously the screen on this on the bottom, we've been through that in the other video. So if you want to put it in stealth mode, it's the same thing as locking your ohms. Hold the fire button, but this time you just press the down button. So make sure it's locked already. And you can see I press those two: normal mode, stealth mode. Put it into stealth mode, hold, well, click 5 times. If I click it 5 times, and then I can fire it. No screen. I haven't used that yet. It doesn't. I don't know. I haven't found a use for it yet. I don't know. Maybe if you're ghost hunting or something, perhaps you don't want the screen kind of illuminating anything, or I don't know, if you're in the cinema, you don't want to make the person in front's head glow. Why you'd be vaping in the cinema, I don't know. But it's there, it's cool, it's easy to use. Another thing you can do is put it into power lock mode. Power lock mode is great because it saves. A funny story, my friend Tristan, who actually sorted these out for us from the US, the other day he was driving around and he put the mod in between his legs as he was driving. Like, I don't condone vaping and driving at all. It's a bit different to smoking a cigarette when you're driving. It's a bit more cumbersome. But whatever, he was vaping, put it in between his legs as he was actually driving, just to kind of keep it there. Got out the car, fired it up, and hit like 200 watts. Basically because somehow he'd managed to push these buttons in whilst he was driving. I mean, they're pretty clicky buttons. It's going to be difficult to push them in, but I guess in the right circumstances, whatever. It's all a fluke, isn't it? At the end of the day, we've all done it. We've all gone back to our mod, and it's been way higher than the coil can take. Fire it, and then it's just burned your mouth out, and you get all that horrible burnt cotton taste. So Tristan, if you're watching, we all feel your pain. It's something that we've all done. So next time, put it in power lock mode. There you go. That's some advice for you, Tris. So to do that, basically you just hold in, have it unlocked, and then whereas you'd normally hit the up and down buttons to adjust the wattage, hold them both in. There you go, power lock mode, hold up, down. So we talked a little bit about temperature sensing mode. I've gone and hit the Kanga sub tank up. In here I have one of Kanga's NI200 nickel coils, again courtesy of Tristan, thank you very much. I've been waiting for the Atlantis coils to come in, the nickel coils. I haven't found them online yet in the UK, so I've just not bothered, which is probably to my deficit, but whatever. I've got one of the nickel coils in here. It's a 0.15 ohm coil. rated from like what 20 to 45 watts. But obviously this is going to allow us to enter temperature sensing mode. One thing before we do go on, if you guys don't have a temperature sensing mod yet, don't rush out to the store and buy nickel coils and plug them in and use them on a regular mod that doesn't have a temperature sensing mode. Don't do it, okay? Don't do it. Get yourself, you know, if this is too expensive for you, the DNA200, it retails at $200. That works out with postage at about £160. We ordered direct from the US. If that's too much for you, you can buy a DNA40, you can buy DNA30s, you can buy all kinds of different temperature sensing boards. So if you want to get into it at an entry level, I'd advise those. This is certainly for people that are more advanced in terms of what they want, what they're getting into, what they know. Personally, I've never done temperature sensing mode before, but I'm at a level where I'm building coils or I'm using coils in my tanks that require 100 watts plus. So this makes sense for me. If you're not at that level, get a DNA40, get something temperature sensing with a lower maximum output. It'll cost you less. Pretty simple. Okay, so first off, how do you get it into temperature sensing mode? Well, you're going to want to put your coil in your tank on your mod. That goes without saying. Screw it down, make sure it's locked, and then you're going to have to hit the wattage up and wattage down. It will say hold to change temp. There you go. And now all we've got to do is scroll down, so 600 Fahrenheit. And that goes all the way down to, we'll see it in a minute. It goes quite a way. I mean, there's a whole range of temperatures here. Does it go down to 200? Yeah. And then we get to 230 degrees Celsius. So we can go up. And it goes pretty high. There you go, 300 Celsius. And that goes right down to about 100 Celsius. So there's quite a range of temperatures there. Which is great because, you know, not everyone likes boiling friggin' hot stuff. So we'll leave it at 450 Fahrenheit for now. So hit the fire button and then that'll lock the temperature in. Now I'm going to set it to about 28 watts because that's where I feel is a pretty good spot for me. 28 watts there. The coil is reading as a 0.25. Basically that's because these things tend to jump up and down a bit before you bed them in. So as we fire it, it'll adjust it. Another thing about the temperature sensing mode, it does have a kind of ambient coil temperature thing, which it does. Basically, it'll preheat the coil to a certain level so that as soon as you hit the fire button, it basically jams a whole load of fucking voltage through there and ramps it up. You could hear it just then, like, you get that kind of instant bam. There it is. So let's give this a bit of a vape. I'll let you know how we get on and yeah, see how temperature mode goes. It's nice, it's really good. I wouldn't say it burns the tongue, but if you like a kind of hotter vape like I do, it's certainly, you notice the warmth straight away, and then it does kind of, it peaks to get it up to that temperature. There's a kind of a burst at the start and then it drops off, levels out, and you get that kind of nice solid sort of temperature. It's really cool. I'm going to drop the temperature down just to give you guys some idea of how different it is. Obviously I know what it's like when it's super hot. Let's go for 250, so another 200 degrees less. Much less of a ramp up time on this as well, and you'll be able to hear it modulate the temperature. If I hold it here, you can kind of hear it just going. There's a real sort of subtlety, but it keeps it, it holds it at that temperature by pulsing almost. It's pretty cool. I appreciate for you guys that are into your regular sort of temperature, you know, you've been doing it for a while, you know all this kind of stuff, but for the newbies, it's interesting stuff. It's cool to know. And yeah, basically it's just much cooler vapor. But no, it's a great feature. It's cool to have, and you know, if you've not vaped on temperature control before, like I said before, maybe get something a little less expensive to begin with, unless you're confident enough to know that this is going to be what you're going to need 200 watts worth of power. But no, it's great. If you've got a cold or something, maybe, or if you're vaping menthol stuff, all of a sudden you get a thing for menthols. You might not want the heat. You might want it to be a much cooler vape. Today I'm using this liquid. It's called El Diablo. El Diablo. If anyone's watched PewDiePie, The Last of Us walkthrough, all about El Diablo. But it's Calvera Katrina by El Diablo, and it's awesome. It's like strawberry sponge cake. I really like it. It's awesome. It's a big shout out to those guys. Much love on Instagram as well. So check them out. There's a great line of juices there. We'll get onto that in a whole nother video. Okay, so far so average. It's temperature sensing. What's so great about it? It goes up to 200 watts. What's the big clincher here? Well, basically the big selling point for me anyway. For the Vaporshark DNA200, just evolve their DNA200 chip, is the fact that it's so customizable. Basically, the guys at Evolve are kind of turned around and said, you know what, we're sick and tired of a lot of the big companies, the likes of Sigeli, the likes of Pioneer for You, of Cloudper, whatever, coming out with revised units all the time. Well, I say all the time, every kind of 6 to 8 months, something like that. They'll bring out a new unit, the IPv4, the IPv3, the IPv2. The differences between those are kind of minimal. It's basically changes in the levels of the wattage that the board can put out, or extra little features that you'll get popping up on your screen, little extra readouts and things. Not all of those things require a whole new mod. A lot of it could be done just through firmware. A lot of these chips are capable of much more. They're kind of almost a bit locked down, whatever, and it sort of forces people's hands sometimes into buying another mod just because they want the latest thing. It's like buying FIFA every single year. Oh, this year it's got ball control. This year, this year it's got off the ball control. This year it's got the new kits for the next season, whatever. Like, have a patch that you can download that will just give you that shit. You don't have to worry about buying a whole new thing, like spend another 50 quid on a game. So basically, Evolve have taken that logic and they've gone, hey, let's apply that to regulated mods. You've probably noticed this thing does have a USB port on the front here. That is partly for fast charging. This thing, because it's a LiPo battery, it can zip charge. I've got here, this is the charger I use. It's just an average Samsung wall charger for my Android phone. But you can see on the back here, it's rated up to, it goes as high as 2 amps at the bottom there. Basically what that means is, because it's a 2 amp source, I can plug my USB charger into this and it will zip charge the unit. What does that mean? Well, it means I don't have to sit around for 6 hours waiting for my 18650s to charge. Literally an hour and 15 minutes, done. You're charged. It's been an absolute godsend. I don't mind charging batteries overnight, things like that, whatever, but it's not, I don't know, I don't necessarily feel 100% safe leaving things kind of sat there heating up, charging on the carpet or on a table or something like that whilst I'm asleep. If something goes wrong, it's a big deal. And we've all heard the horror stories about batteries catching fire, whether they're in a unit, whether they're not, when they're charging, whatever. So being able to charge in an hour and a quarter, it's pretty good. Battery life on this thing, it's lasting about a day and a half, depending on how heavy I'm vaping, what I'm vaping. If I'm vaping at 200 watts, obviously it's going to last less time than if I'm vaping at 40 watts. It swings and roundabouts, really. Like more power, less battery life, less power, more battery life. It's basic maths. But the other thing that this USB charge port can be used for is the firmware upgrades, and also connecting the mod to Evolve's Escribe software. So let's head on to the PC and I'll show you what on earth that's all about. Alright, so welcome to my PC. Basically, I thought I'd take you here. What you want to do, to get this software, you're going to have to go to basically Google Escribe, like this. Head on over to Evolve, and you'll come across this little section here. If you scroll down here, you'll get Escribe software. This is what you want. Basically click here to download Escribe, and then you will end up installing this program. This is the Escribe software from Evolve, basically not a Vaporshark thing. This is an Evolve bit of software that they've designed to connect your mod up to your PC, basically. So you can see here we've got the Evolve DNA200 is connected on USB. That's basically to let you know that I have actually plugged it in. It is live. You can see here currently we are at 28.1 watts, 250 Fahrenheit. We can adjust all of this from here. Basically this is on my Atlantis profile at the moment because I mucked up before when I was doing the initial video. Down here we've got a preheat time to preheat the coil. You've also got the coil material, the preheat power. So this is basically the punch as well. This is essentially to adjust the initial hit, and also to basically all this stuff just lets you know what this setting is going to have saved on it. You can also add a custom screen and all sorts of stuff as well. If we head up here, right to the top, there's your average sort of save as, undo, redo. You can log in if you've got an account, which I don't currently have. The main thing here is options. You can check automatically for updates. This is what we were talking about with the firmware. It will look for updates if you're connected to the internet to update the firmware on your DNA200 chip, which is absolutely awesome. Basically it does it for you. You don't have to worry about it. Tools, you've got a calculator, some other bits and bobs in there, and a help part as well. One of the cool things here is it's this simple to connect, disconnect, and upload your settings. Absolutely awesome. I mean, this software is pretty foolproof. If you kind of got a basic knowledge of stuff, head into the theme here. You can adjust all of your screens. You can see this is the gnarly island a bit we had in the intro there. I basically made that on Paint. Just basically, you can see here 128 pixels by 32 pixels. Make yourself a paint file on Microsoft Paint, paint whatever the hell you want, and then just load it by clicking up here. It'll bring you to a little browser box, and you can load stuff up from there. Screen, this basically shows you what's on the display, so you can have it either left or right handed. There's a battery meter. Where do you want to see your battery meter? How many times it flashes when there's an error, that's pretty cool. How long it flashes for. This field section here is the all-important bit. This is what's going to be on your main screen the majority of the time you're on there. You can change literally everything to anything you want. So in field 1, obviously that's the field right at the very bottom on the left. You can have any of these. I've stuck with ohms because that's the average there. Mine's pretty standard, to be fair. I've left it. I kind of like it the way it is. You can adjust whether you want the temperature, or basically whatever you want. But I mean, the amount of different things you can select from is absolutely crazy. Charge percentage, USB power, current voltage, so you can monitor the USB power there. The battery pack as a whole, you can also monitor individual cells, which is amazing. Obviously this is a 3-cell LiPo battery, so you can check that all 3 of those are pretty consistent with each other. Current, there's a temperature for the board itself, and also a room temperature, which is pretty cool. You can have the ambient temperature in the room. Puff count, I know some of you guys are quite keen to count your puffs, especially those guys that are transitioning from smoking across to vaping. That was always a big thing for me. Was I wanted to make sure at the beginning at least that I wasn't puffing more than I would be on a cigarette. I don't know whether it's just a sort of placebo sort of mental thing. I don't know, but some people like that. And the last amount of energy, power, temperature, and time that were expended on your last puff. So that's pretty cool. Obviously you can change when it's charging as well. Right now, because it's plugged in, I'm showing a few different things. I've got my charge percent, my USB voltage and current, which is pretty cool. Brightness presets, that's pretty sick. Whether the screen's active after the puff, it's all kind of like it's little things. It's the little things that basically let you personalize this unit. One more thing actually, while I think about it, on the theme setting. This is where a lot of people actually on Reddit and things like that are basically offering theme packs, where they've created an entire theme of bits and pieces that different screens that you can upload onto your device, basically skinning it. So you can download skins. I mean, it's basic. It's black and white. You know, only a few pixels, but it's a pretty sick thing. Like you can basically, you know, you want tribals over here or some shit. Like I don't know, like whatever you want. You could change it to negatives, so you know where black's white, white's black, whatever. It's awesome. I absolutely love it. You go in here. You got the details about the actual battery itself on the mod. You can you know change all kinds of stuff in here. I've not mucked around with this too much so far, but you know battery analytics and things like that are all going to be pretty helpful if that's your thing. This really interests me as well. Research, data acquisition. You can set up experiments. If you've been keeping up to date with the goings on in the vape world recently, you'll know that there was a study conducted, which certainly the UK government's taken some considerable notice of. Basically explaining that vaping is like 2,000 times safer than cigarettes. We finally come to that conclusion. I mean, surely it's common sense, but whatever. But this is cool. I mean, if people wanted to experiment with this, and you know the effects of different coils, different temperatures, different powers on the vapor, this will allow you to gather as much of that information as possible from the mod itself, which is really cool. You can stick seals on it and all sorts of stuff, you know. I love it. I think this is a great idea, and you know, for science, you know, this is such a cool little bit of kit. The main thing that you're going to want to be checking out though is the device monitor. You click in here, it'll bring up this screen. Now at the moment I've got a monitor set up for the actual LiPo pack itself. You could do individual cells. The power output, the temperature output, the current and voltage, and the actual live ohms rather than the cold ohms, the live ohms of my coil. So I've got the settings you saw before, 28.1. I'm going to drop that down, 28 watts. There, 250 degrees Fahrenheit. It should be on what is a 0.0 on what is a 0.15 ohm coil, which was reading as 0.25, but whatever. So if we fire it, I have to unlock it first. There we go. If I fire it, there you can see I tap the button, so there's a couple of dots going across. You will see all of these things change. It's live streaming the data as I click the button. That is so cool. It's going to make for some awesome videos in the future. You can see actually what I was talking about with the temperature before. It peaks and then it pulses, the red line there on the graph. That's pretty sick to be able to see that. Things like voltage, you've got the light blue there. There's like a spike to begin with as it powers up, and then it carries on at a lower level there. Things like power, voltage and current and things are not voltage, power and current, and also the ohms are pretty standard across the board there. But you know, if we head over here and get rid of a couple of those, get rid of the live ohms, get rid of the current, get rid of the power as well, and then this should give us a pretty good. There's a couple down here as well that are showing up, things like energy we don't need. There you go. So if we fire it now, this should there you go. There's our kind of more accurate readings. The voltage spikes, the temperature stays the same. There's also a little drop off in the battery there where the power is drawn from it, which is pretty cool. Right, apologies for the little cut there, but what I was doing, I was looking for basically there's the time feature here will show you how long your most recent puff was. Which is pretty cool. I quite like, you know, I'm quite interested in the whole kind of cloud chasing thing, so getting the most out of my puffs and you know, longer puffs and things if you're chasing clouds, or even for things like tricking, you want to make sure that you've got a good amount of vapor in there, stuff like that. It's great to monitor performance. I think guys that are cloud chasing are gonna, competition level stuff. This could be really, really helpful. So I'll give it a bit of a go, and I'll show you what I mean. Watch the blue line on the bottom. There you go, 4 seconds. It's not too bad. You can see the little peaks and troughs and stuff there as the other stuff kind of moves around on the screen. But no, this is really cool stuff. What I'll do now is I'll quick cut away, and I'll give you a little bit of an idea of the power of this unit. We'll fire it at 200 watts on this nickel coil, and I'll give you the graph readings for that, and it should be pretty cool. Okay, so it wouldn't be a Vaporshark DNA200 video if we didn't vape this thing at 200 watts. So here we go. Keep your eye on the red temperature graph line when that pops up. Also, the voltage could be quite interesting, seeing how that peaks. Things like board temperature, room temperature, just keep your eye on them, and it'll give you an idea of the kind of levels of things that we're dealing with here. So here we go. Wish me luck. This is 200 watts. Whew, there you go. Pretty interesting stuff. I'm sure you'll agree. I mean, this is a really cool feature. I might try and include this sort of graph section in upcoming reviews and things, to give you an idea of how the unit's performing as I'm vaping on different juices. I'll just put it as a little picture-in-picture or something. It's going to be really cool in future reviews. So yeah, there you go. That's the Escribe software. We can click off of this, get back into the main settings here, and yeah, to disconnect, pretty simple. You just hit disconnect and away we go. So back up to FaceTime, and we'll round this up. Okay, so that was the Escribe software. Pretty cool, really good idea. I'm sure, it seemed like a bit kind of techie and a bit nerdy to begin with, like, oh, why are you going to want to do that? Actually, I really like it. I think it's an awesome idea. Now, the more I think about it, the more I use it, the better it is. Absolutely great idea, fantastic bit of software. That's the Evolve DNA200 chip side of things. As far as the Vaporshark goes, final thoughts. It's an impressive bit of kit. I've literally foregone using the Sigeli, my go-to mod, completely. I almost exclusively use this thing now. Maybe the hour that it's charging, I might use the Sigeli. I haven't charged my Sigeli in 2 weeks. That's how long I've had this mod for. It's an awesome mod. Vaporshark, hats off to them. The finish on it is still just as good as it was the day that we got it out of the box. There's no kind of scuffing or marks or anything like that. I know some people were kind of worried about the 510, obviously screwing it down on there might kind of cause a bit of peel. Obviously the finish on this is a sort of almost rubberized metal sort of matte finish, but no, I've had absolutely no problems with it at all. One thing I will say, the 510 connector on the top, you can see it there, those ridges, so I hear people that are using RDAs and dripping onto these things, these ridges do extend past the side of the RDA. So if you're getting a bit of leaking, a bit of seepage from your RDA tank, it does drip into the actual 510 connector. So something to be aware of. Don't over drip. I'm just as guilty of it as a lot of people are. Oversaturating that wick. This is as good a time as any not to. I mean, if you're dripping with nickel coils, you're building nickel coils, you don't have to worry about keeping it moist anyway, because at the end of the day, it's going to regulate the temperature. It's going to stop it from burning that cotton. So, don't over drip. It won't be a problem. That's that, and possibly the fact that the screen's on the bottom. I know I said it in the other video. If you are dripping and you're over dripping, and you're kind of looking at the screen, whatever, it's going to leak. It's simple as. But any mod's going to leak if you're over dripping, which is why you don't do it. One final thing, just one final con. I don't know if you will be able to see, but the button the actual fire button has some, yeah, you can just about see it. There is some scratching on that, which is a bit of a shame, that it's not a little bit more robust. I've had it for 2 weeks and just kind of like, you know, putting it in the pocket and stuff like that, it's starting to wear off a little. The screen hasn't scratched at all. The, you know, the rubberized kind of base on it has, you know, I can put it down on things and it's not scratching it. That's absolutely fine. The buttons are still perfectly clicky. There's no very little wobble in the buttons at all. Overall, just an absolutely fantastic mod. I urge absolutely everyone to go out and make a purchase. If you're not getting the 200, it's well worth getting your hands on the 40, because it's going to be absolutely identical. So there you go, that's my thoughts on the Vaporshark DNA200 regulated LiPo powered 200 watt box mod. Awesome bit of kit. I'm going to be using it non-stop from now on in all my reviews and everything, I swear to God. This is available from Vaporshark Direct, vaporshark.com. It's available in all kinds of different retail outlets all over the place. It's becoming more and more available. There were some issues to begin with in terms of stock levels, but no, it's absolutely fine now. It's everywhere. It's making its way to the UK as well. So if you want one, get one. You won't regret it. As ever, like, comment, subscribe, blah, blah, blah. I hope you like the new edits. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Happy vaping.